Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. On this episode of World Talks, we turn our attention to Ukraine. As fighting intensifies around Pokrovsk and drone warfare spreads far beyond Ukraine's borders, Europe now faces new questions about security and the future of this war. I'm joined by Stefan Korshak, the senior defense correspondent of the Kyiv Post, to discuss this further. Stefan, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Diana. Thank you for having me.
So, Stefan, as hard as this sounds to say, Russian forces are slowly closing in on Pokrovsk, right? Stefan, how big of a test is this for Ukraine, both on the ground and for morale? And also, do tell us, what is really the significance for Pokrovsk for Russians?
Well, for the Russians, it's been an objective for close to a year, and President Putin and the Kremlin all the way down have said that capturing Pokrovsk is an important part of their campaign to take over Ukraine's Donetsk region. So it's just a big objective that they've been pushing towards for quite a long time and taking pretty substantial losses in doing it. In terms of the situation on the ground, the latest reports are that the Russian attacks have tailed off in the last few days. They may be taking a breather. It is possible they've taken heavy enough losses so that they can't keep attacking. That's not clear. And it's very mixed up and confused environment. One of the things to bear in mind when we're looking at Pokrovsk in an adjacent town called Mirhorod is that this is a pretty big territory. It's about 50 square kilometers. That's about like, the city Dortmund in Germany. And it's built up. There are coal mines, there are factories, there are apartment buildings, there are administrative buildings, and a relatively small number of units are moving around in that territory. So it's a very big no man's land. The Ukrainians right now are saying that the situation is difficult. However, they've brought reinforcements to the area. Those reinforcements are hunting down the Russians. And the Ukrainians are saying that they believe that they have the force to contain the Russians and maybe push them back.
And
the Ukrainians
what do you believe, though? You just said that about what the Ukrainians are saying. What do you think will happen in this scenario? And let me be devil's advocate. What happens if Pokrovsk falls fully?
Well, if Pokrovsk falls, the real question would be how many losses the Ukrainians would take in the process. If they were to exact a price and then get out cleanly, then it would not really have much of an effect on the war. If they were to lose a large number of men surrounded and captured or killed, that would be a big defeat for the Ukrainians, and that would have effects both of for the Ukrainian army's ability to resist and for national morale. The only thing that I really can be sure of, or I think that anybody can be sure of, is that this is a very long and slow process. The Russians have been pushing towards Pokrovsk for, again, close to a year. The territorial gain, the advances are measured in the dozens and sometimes hundreds of meters. And it would be not really responsible to expect a big change anytime soon. The only thing that really is safe to predict is that there's going to be a lot of fighting going on around this area for weeks, possibly even months.
Let me ask you this now. Do you think that the fighting in Pokrovsk could actually reignite Western solidarity instead of weakening it at this point, with everything that's going on?
I guess that's possible, but I wouldn't really predict it. The West has pretty much taken, well, the Americans have basically washed their hands of Ukraine. It seems like the Europeans, there's a majority of them that seem to feel that it's a long-term confrontation with Russia, that Ukraine is the vehicle by which that confrontation will continue. Excuse me. And the European support to Ukraine will continue. If the Ukrainians were to suffer a disastrous defeat, that might make the Europeans reflect on whether or not that policy makes sense, but that seems unlikely. What seems likely is a long, grinding attritional battle that the Ukrainians have been fighting for quite a long time, and the Europeans have been watching for quite a long time.
I mean, you say that the Europeans have been watching for quite a long time, but let me ask you, I mean, specifically about Europe, do you think their Europe support is going to fade anytime soon? I mean, you know, maybe war fatigue could be a possible reason. How do you see it?
I think it's possible, but Europe is a big continent. There are a lot of nations that are participating in Ukrainian support. So, excuse me again, the decision of a single European state to reduce its support to Ukraine is really not decisive to overall European support. We have already seen that when the Americans, I should say, did a 180-degree turn and changed from strong support to Ukraine to an attempt to get closer relations with Russia, European states stepped in. So it seems like there's an understanding in many European capitals that a certain level of support to Ukraine should be maintained over the long term. Now, were there to be a disastrous defeat, were the Ukrainian army to collapse, I'm sure that there would be a wide-reaching review of that position across Europe. I don't see that coming, and I don't think that the European decision-makers see that coming either.
Well, I mean, you know, you're saying that, and I mean, Poland's foreign minister, right, says that this war could actually drag on for 3 more years until one side simply runs out of strength. Stefan, from what we're seeing, from what everything that you're telling me right now, do you think that this prediction is actually realistic, or do you think that now Russia targeting specifically Pokrovsk is actually bringing this war into a new phase right now?
Well, I think that I believe that was Foreign Minister Sikorsky.
Yes.
I think he's absolutely right. I would agree that 3 years is certainly possible. It might even be an accurate prediction, but that's a big look into the future. Nobody knows, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility. As far as Pokrovsk is concerned, it's a grinding attritional battle, and it doesn't really have a global effect on Ukraine's ability to resist overall. And the Ukrainians have suffered defeats before at the end of the day. And it's worth adding that the Russians have attempted to capture places in the Pokrovsk area twice already in the past 6 months. Once was a smaller push into Pokrovsk with a lot of dismounted infantrymen. The second was a larger push towards a village, I should say, probably called Dobropilia, which is nearby. And in both cases, the Ukrainians assembled reserve, conducted counterattacks, and destroyed the Russian penetrations. So it cannot be taken. It's just not logical. It doesn't. The facts don't reflect it. It can't be assumed that the Ukrainians are not capable of dealing with a Russian attack in a certain area. They have demonstrated that at least sometimes they are.
Stefan, would you say that Kyiv's defense industry could hit $60 billion by 2026? Is that something that's realistic?
Yeah, it is. The Ukrainian defense industry is growing at close to geometric rates. I recently visited a couple of factories, one for drones, another for military batteries. And they started with nothing in both cases. They were self-financing. And now they are producing military equipment that is bleeding edge. It's pushing the envelope. It's in that particular sector, probably the most developed and certainly the most battle-tested of any comparable material. The Ukrainian government has recently started to loosen its restrictions on exports for military equipment, especially weaponry, made by Ukrainian manufacturers to be sent abroad. So, for instance, the Ukrainians are making right now small interceptor drones, which are very effective at knocking down the drones that Poland, for instance, saw in its airspace a few months ago. And One would argue that the Polish military might be interested in buying some of those drones. Were that to go forward, then the financing from the Polish purchasing would help that particular sector of Ukrainian military manufacturing grow even faster. And it's a very big war. The technology is very advanced. For every one type of equipment that you know about, there are probably 10 or 20 that are equally critical that one doesn't know about. And the growth potential there is, Europe, NATO is rearming. And the Ukrainians, the guys that I talk to, they understand that the Ukrainian military manufacturing could be a part of it. But decisions need to be made.
You're talking about, military strategy. Let me ask you this. Do you think that Ukraine's military strategy would actually change somehow if this time Pokrovsk fully falls under siege to the Russians?
That's an excellent question. The Ukrainian military strategy overall since about mid-2023 has been to hold ground where possible and make the Russians pay. And the Pokrovsk battles that we're seeing right now are a reflection of that strategy. The Ukrainians are committing minimal force to try and commit maximum casualties. If that ends in a wholesale collapse and a visible defeat, then the national government would, I think, very seriously review its strategy. Not that it would necessarily be able to come up with another one, but it would, I think, reflect on it, and under normal circumstances in a war, if there's a big defeat, then a general or generals are found to pay the price. And right now, the general in charge of Ukraine's ground forces is a man by the name of Alexander Syrsky. His battle record is competent at least, but he has his critics. So one possibility, or excuse me, one potential outcome would be that Syrsky and his staff would be sacked at that point. But that's just speculation.
Stefan, you're located in Kyiv right now. I just want to ask you, what are people saying? What are ordinary Ukrainian citizens saying, looking to if this war actually drags on for years? What choices do they think that Europe should take now to avoid, complete defeat or a future war? Just very briefly, because we're almost out of time.
Well, I think that the Ukrainians understand that they're looking to themselves and that their focus is the Russian military, and what Europe does regarding defending Europe is secondary. But in general, I think that it would be very, without exception, almost any Ukrainian would say that if it was up to him or her, he would ask the Europeans to take the Russian threat very seriously. Don't wait. Get ready now. That's pretty much universal.
And do you think that Europe is taking the Russian threat very seriously? In one word, yes or no?
No, not enough. Not by the Ukrainian standards, certainly.
Well, Stefan, I do hope to have you again as a guest in the future to get more into that. Thank you so much, Stefan Korshak, Senior Defense Correspondent at the Kyiv Post, for all your insight with us here this morning.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. Have a great day.
And thank you for watching World Talks. I'm Diana Skaya. We'll see you next time.